No.
Yes. Right.
So you guys need an alignment, not coaching.
The coaching industry has exploded.
We want to be better. We want to move forward and keep growing.
Uncoachable is going to be released every single month with a new coach, a new idea, a new approach, and a new takeaway. Hi, I'm Jon.
I'm Rhys, and he's Uncoachable.
Rhys, before we want to get into this, we probably want to set the table a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit of context.
We
it might be
we have to
interesting.
introduce our guest and what the guest is going to do for us and why the guest is so special. Because, as we've talked about this, you and I, the only thing we really agree on is the fact that we're uncoachable.
Fair.
Yeah. Everything else, polar opposites on. It's the only unifying thing that we have between us.
Right. And in fact, I'm approaching this conversation with nothing but optimism because I think with the right person, with the right direction, the right thinking, I might be able to be changed. I don't know about Rhys.
Was this kind of like the last step before divorce for you guys, or what's the scenario?
Right? It's easier to get out of the marriage than it is out of the business partnership.
Am I just cheaper than therapy? Okay, fair.
I want to say, first of all, thank you, Barrett, because this is our first ever episode, and thanks for being the guinea pig in this experiment.
Thanks for having me. It might be the last, depending on how cruel you two are, but we'll figure it out.
We won't rub shampoo in your eyes, but we will test your coaching.
So, as our listeners know, this is Uncoachable, and the idea is for us to actually be able to meet someone like Barrett McDonald and talk about what does coaching mean, and how could it potentially help us. So, Barrett, if you don't mind, just introduce a little bit about who you are, what you do, and potentially what you can do for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jon and Rhys, thanks so much for having me on. Glad to be on your first episode. I think it'll be many episodes down. We'll go down range.
It's a lot of confidence.
As things go on. Well, I mean, we just have to make the first one a success, right?
Exactly.
Which is what coaching's all about, is being properly prepared for the endeavors that are going to take you forward, right? So Barrett McDonald, I've been leading teams and building businesses for well over 20 years now in different aspects through retail and other parts of Canada with a wonderful brand called Canadian Tire, and then moved back out here to Halifax to open a restaurant, which I guided through COVID and all the ups and downs of that, and then bought into a franchise called Action Coach. So Action Coach has been around for over 30 years now. We're in 85 countries around the world, and we help businesses at all different stages of startup all the way to exit strategies and everywhere in between to kind of make sure that the business works for you, not because of you, so that you can have that free time and spend the hard-earned cash that you make on the backs of all your staff.
Cool. Yeah. I got to say, first of all, I know that you've everything, as you're saying, in terms of like having a success, building stuff, because plug your restaurant Almanac. Great place for breakfast.
Thank you.
Incredibly delicious.
Thanks.
And so when I met you at a networking event, I was like, you were like Almanac. I was like, yes. And then you said coaching, and I was like, I just want to know about the restaurant.
So what does go into the biscuits is what you really wanted to know.
Yeah,
what's
what's the secret sauce?
I tell you, but then I'd have to kill you, right?
It'd be worth it.
It's proprietary. It would be. And I mean, then the check would come in from murdering you. So
Yeah.
that would be the good part, right? Which is good. But so you guys think that you're uncoachable. What makes you think that?
Wait, are we being coached? This is exciting.
It's right. He's flipping it already.
he's already
right?
done it.
So kind of technically, I'm supposed to ask permission first. So
really?
may I be your coach and take you on this journey today and try to
It's like a vampire.
change your
Has to be invited in your house.
Well, I was going to say, so right there, you've got my back up a bit.
Okay.
Asking for permission for something. I'm like, if I give you consent, I don't know what then happens here. So I'm open
Okay.
to being coached. And I'll let you asked about what makes us think we haven't been or aren't able to be coached. And I think partly I've never had a mentor. I've had coaches all through sports.
Yep.
I don't think I necessarily executed on whatever their plan was. So that's the part of me where
Fair.
I think I'm not able to either follow through on advice, take advice, or apply it.
I've never had I never had ever had any fun experiences in sport, so I can't be like, well, at least there was this rugby coach who really inspired me. Most of the time, I'm terrible at sport, and I had ingrown toenails and used it as an excuse to get out of everything. They were healed. Like,
They can be a
I
thing.
got to sit this one out for the third year in a row.
Championship. I can't.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Talk to the cheerleaders though. I just wanted the jacket. I didn't want the activity.
No, seriously, look at his toes.
Don't look at my toes.
Please, socks on.
Yeah, socks on.
My eyes are up here.
Which is good. And I guess I have this kind of like real oppositional instinct. And I feel like if someone is trying, and it's not that I'm too arrogant to learn. I know that I know there's so much I don't know, and I think that I want to learn right up until the day I die, which is hopefully quite far away.
Absolutely.
And there's still a lot left to learn. But I don't know what it is. There's this kind of like naughty boy at the back of the class syndrome where like if I'm in that kind of environment, I want to push back, and I want to, and it's why I didn't last very long in like traditional education. I was doing art full time by the time I was like 17.
Okay.
So like, which was fine, it suited me, but I don't know what it is. It's like is it infused in my DNA? It's like an instinctual dislike for someone trying to mold me, if you know what I mean.
Right. So your perception of coaching is that the person's going to change who you are, what you're doing, and the processes and everything. Is that what I'm understanding?
I think as well, I just have an inbuilt cynicism.
Fair.
And that's not like, that's just generally. I think so.
Which kind of makes sense. How about you, John?
Yeah, no, I would disagree with most of what Rhys just said there.
Fair.
Particularly about the toenails.
Okay.
And was an athlete and involved in sports and never used an excuse like that to get maybe a concussion, which was probably undiagnosed. But so there is the skepticism, the cynicism around the structure. And part of that comes from the exploding of your industry, understanding that it is prolific. And for us to be able to how do we connect with really good coaches that will effectively help us do our job? And so we're skeptics to a degree. I'm a little bit more optimistic than Rhys is, and probably a little more open to being directed and changed. I mean, he tells me what to do all the time.
Is that written into the partnership agreement?
Yeah. No, he tells me what to do. I don't do any of it, and vice versa. Oh, it's like, hey, good idea, and then off we go.
It's completely set up.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things with us is we're not a one size fits all. So we meet you where you're at. And one of the first things we try to do is figure out where it is you want to go and why you're not there yet. So where do you want to go?
We disagree on that. We've yet to define what an exit strategy would look like because we're having a wonderful time doing
I know,
everything
it's
we're
too
doing,
much
right?
fun.
Right? So exit by death, I think.
I have no pension planning. I have like no long term. Like I literally take I just take it day by day.
Yep.
And so I'm. It's very hard for me to imagine where I want to go because where I would like to go and what I want to do changes constantly, which is. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't have a favorite color. It changes all the time. So
right.
This is why it's hard for me to.
Does it seasonally change? Right. Is that what it is?
Maybe it depends on my mood. Today's a blue day. Maybe.
So if your shirts were mood rings, it would change all the time. Right?
I'm a human mood ring.
Just someone breathe on you in a tie dye and change a different color. But that's fine because not everyone has to exit their business willingly. Sometimes you do it unwillingly and you die in your chair, right? But it's about setting up your team and everything to become a sellable asset is what we kind of do. But if you're
so it's coaching to kind of like you primarily coach exit strategies, is that it?
In a way, because how you're planning on exiting your business reflects what we're going to do today and what we're going to work on today.
Okay.
So if your plan is to build your business so you hand it down to future generations, that's a different mindset, different money set, different everything that goes along with it. Whereas if you're quickly trying to build it to be able to sell it, that's a whole other set of rules and things that we're going to work on. So that's why we start with the discovery process on where it is you want to go and where your kind of gaps and everything are along the way.
See, I do like the first part of that, which is to quickly grow it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we've often talked about let's do more of what we're doing, just the more piece. And it's not scale at all costs. For us, it is in fact the opposite of that. It is scale, but rightfully so. We like growth. I think we continue to grow double digit year over year. We're up to 100 plus podcasts. It keeps getting bigger and broader. And the clients that we're starting to work with are.
And also like we've got a really nice team. And my worry was as we added more people, it would be harder. But I think the right people have a part of the company, so it's become more fun in a sense. I don't know this. I've never.
that's good, right?
I've never, as you can tell, my illustrious history in sport. I'm not a team player.
But all of a sudden,
I'm like, maybe at 40, I can be part of a team.
So here you are. You've changed, and you didn't even know it.
No, I didn't
You
know.
probably just come to that realization today.
Right?
I only
That
worked
you're
out
like,
yesterday. I
want
live
to
in
be-
Canada now, so.
Too late to exit that strategy, right? The number one rule is don't bring politics in, and we lasted 5 minutes.
I'm interested. I'm interested in the name action coaching.
Right. So,
I like it because it makes me think A team.
yeah. So the purpose behind the term action is we make you do work.
Okay.
And do the
I don't like it
activities.
anymore.
I'm kind of out too.
But it's touches on the difference between us and like a consultant. So a
Yeah.
consultant is going to come in, they're going to build your spreadsheet, they're going to do a pile of work with your team, they're going to do a bunch of things,
Okay.
and then they're going to leave your business. And whether you follow those things that you've invested in is completely different than what we do is we try to show you the way and we try to build the steps and we help you answer the questions that you might not know you have yet. Like you talk about your growth. Now, is all of your growth coming from the same sector or do you have a more profitable sector to one than the other? Like when you think about your client list, like is everyone being billed the same?
Yeah, not by sector, but by ideal client profile.
Okay.
We have a good understanding of that, and not by industry or by sector, right?
Right.
So we recognize where our growth opportunities there are, and when I define that, the growth is not just by revenue. Growth is also by the quality of work that we do, the programs that we work on, and what the internal teams aspire to do as well. So we've got different notions of what growth is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
which is huge and good to know. Now you've got a big, beautiful space. Do you know at what point in time you might have to expand?
No, we've actually. So we moved in here 6 months ago, and we have plans for we can accommodate doubling our size.
Okay, in the same address that you're in now.
Right.
Yeah.
Rhys and I will probably move into the same office, if not out on the balcony.
We haven't
and-
discussed
Before
this
you
yet.
knock out that wall,
Right.
It won't look as open plan, but
Yeah.
everyone's going to have to work in shoulder width environments.
Well, so
It
one
makes
of
the
the,
soundproofing easier.
right. So from a growth standpoint, that one of the things that is the differences between Rhys and I when we talked about his financial plan and saving for the future and the retirement and all that kind of stuff. The business is a good piece of that retirement plan.
Absolutely.
That said, so his unplanning for that, I'm the opposite, which is I'm actually planning for every step and on every iteration. So the growth in team is something that I'm ready for and whatever I plan for. Rhys has done that from probably, we talk about gear and equipment, improvement of process, better product, better deliverable, better creative. That's his direction on growth, I guess, and improvement.
yeah. And I think like we were talking about this the other day, like comparing the content we were creating up to a year ago to now, like the development, the team, the output, like we're just
The efficiency.
it's
that
going
comes
for
with it, right?
excellence and like but it is also creativity as well. Like there's the content they make is always surprising me. Like oh wow, well this is like we're going up and up and up in terms of like impact and stuff. So it's I think I agree with that, John, for once.
So what you would say is if someone did a half hour recording, the efficiencies on editing that and getting it out have completely changed over the year,
Oh yeah.
as well as the quality, which has then allowed your team to have more time to be creative and think about those different things.
Like when we first started, it was me and John. I would literally do the record and the edit, and then we've built the team, and like it was we're able to. The team is like so self-sufficient in a way that allows us to be less in the weeds and think a bit more strategically, which is amazing because
Right.
it took a long time to get there.
It's an interesting point. So one of the things that my job is to make myself replaceable, but I don't want to make myself replaceable. And so that's the conflict from when I turn to a coach to say, where's the growth, where's the plan, where are you headed? And I internally in my head go, yeah, I got to make sure that this business works without Rhys and I.
Right.
Self-sufficient, off it goes. The teams excel, understand what they do, and then he and I are effectively out of jobs, which unemployment is really not good.
No, but you don't necessarily have to be unemployed because then you become more of the mentor and you're working on the high level projects within your business. And then you have more time to really develop and work on that team where you're not into the technical side of things more, right?
So we become coaches.
You essentially become your team coaches, right?
Exactly.
Is what happens within.
Yeah.
And that's good, right?
Here's the $1 million question then. Have you ever come across people that are uncoachable?
No, because everyone's coachable. It's a mindset change, and you just might not be coachable right now, and you might not even realize that you're coachable.
Way to kill the podcast. Just right out of the gate, right?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be in the
2 years
industry
later.
that I was.
Well, I feel like that's a biased position, though.
100%, as is your position of not being coachable. It's your podcast concept, right? It'd be a pretty short episode if you came in and you're like, you know what, I am coachable, and then it was over.
Do you know what? 5 minutes in with Barrett. And
Unbelievable. That'll be $10,000. Thank you very much. Which works out, right?
This is why I'm suspicious.
It's not a quick fix. And I mean, us with Action Coach, we do small engagements, but for the most part internationally, our engagement is over 4 years.
Yeah.
Because it takes that time to build that sustainable change, both within yourself and your team. And what we strive to do is to become a smaller and smaller part of your P&L so that we can take up as much responsibility or as little responsibility as it takes to help you grow your business. And you're constantly changing and growing and moving up to the next level, as is your team. So what does that next challenge look like? And what we try to very specifically not do is to only make you good at one industry. We make you good at running multiple different types of business. So if your retirement strategy is to open a flower shop towards the end of it all, you have the business knowledge and the concepts to be able to go ahead and purchase that flower shop and be able to run it without you being there. Or you might just like stopping and smelling the roses once in a while and being able to do that, right?
Become one of those bosses that like parachutes in every once in a while and
exactly
ruins everyone's day.
But you say that as a joke, but you hate that person.
But what makes you think that you'd be the type of boss that's going to parachute in and ruin their day? Is it because you don't know what you'd be doing on that day or what the team would be doing?
I don't know. It's just based on personal experience of those kind of bosses.
Right.
Myself.
So you're recognizing within yourself that you don't want to be the type of boss you had in the past, and you strived everything you could to avoid that.
I think you should dig into that a little bit more because he gravitates towards the negative bosses. I wonder if he didn't have enough positive influence in his life.
Well, I mean, if he was out at age 17 doing art and everything instead of carrying through,
suggest he was
dealing with ingrown toenails all
way before that.
Daydreaming in the back of class. Did you have to replace a lot of workbooks in junior high and high school?
Yeah.
Another cover ruined. Way to go, Rhys.
My mentality has been I've always struggled with a boss, whereas I found that I've been way more productive, got way more done, and felt more satisfaction like free of those reins where I can just like, and also the amount of energy I have to put into something without a boss. In terms of like on a freelance or contract basis with clients, that relationship is different. And I feel like I can channel that same energy because the idea of delighting clients really excites me. When we get feedback and they're like, I love it. It's made the whole team smile. That is it's like a dopamine hit for me. So like, but if I was working for them as an employee doing it, I think that I really struggle to do it in that dynamic as opposed to this dynamic. So it's just, again, like I said, it's like in my DNA, there's something in me that just, I think if someone's my boss, they could be effective, really nice, have the best intentions and be generous, but I'd still hate them. I think so, which is not their fault.
Right, because you feel it's a different type of pressure. It's a pressure to perform for them versus a pressure to perform for yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And that's a big difference. And certain people take motivations from different ways, right?
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to what part of coaching makes you think that you have to change? Or is it just your mindset, your deliveries, and that type of thing that is going to change? And sometimes it's just your outlook on what it is for your business. Like we started talking about your expansion plans. Do you know what the next 3 employees look like and what those intervals are that you need to hit before you bring them on board?
No.
Yes. Right.
So you guys need an alignment, not coaching. You need to be sat in the same room with a box of tissues and figure out if you're on the same page or not.
Right. Ask him when our year end is.
When it's over.
Yeah. End of the fiscal year, of course.
Of course, right?
Yeah. I got a question for you now.
That ends on December 31st, right? Every year? Or around Easter time.
I got to ask a question for you because one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast was that we both get approached by people selling coaching services on a regular basis. And, but also likewise, like there are so many people who are kind of starting podcast companies and go, well, I'm a podcast expert because I made 3 episodes or whatever. So like there are these kind of entryists who kind of can say, well, because it's not like being a doctor, neither is podcasting or, being podcast strategists or product, podcast agency like we are. Essentially, you could build a website and go, I'm this now. Right. So like, how do you kind of like feel about people who are potentially like I know how I feel about people who give podcasting a bad name. How do you feel about people who give coaching a bad name, who say, I'm now a coach and I'm going to market myself and do it in a way that makes people like us more cynical?
I mean, in my opinion, it kind of goes to who's going to go to the backroom doctor, right? You want to take the person that's invested their time and their money and learned the different ways. So that's one of the reasons that I bought into Action Coach. Is it is a tried, tested, and true way of doing things. And there's many, many hours of training that happens. And we are extremely governed from our head office to make sure that we're following certain guidelines and we're not dabbling in things that we shouldn't. You can get to different levels when you're playing around with someone's mind and their business. And not that I do that. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. But you can really have the way that they think change. And if you take advantage of that, you can take advantage of people, and it's not what the right people should be all about. And there's a difference between someone who reads a book once and then is going to go ahead and teach that lesson, and someone that lives it and breathes it and works with different industries is something that's huge. Like if you're going to if you want to start a podcast, hire a podcast specific coach that's going to be able to help you with that. But if you're already established and you want to look at different things and change different things, that's where you get someone who's more of a generalist. We become very specific and talented at growing businesses, but we're not like business specific to any different type of business. So that's where it comes into play, because then you're getting an outside view of how other people are running their businesses, whether it be junk removal or a pharmacy or a trade or someone that's in a startup or a marketing agency. Everyone's got their different things, but it all comes down to the same core competencies of, do you know when your physical year end is? Do you know what the initials P&L stand for? And a lot of those things can come along the way. And there's a lot of people along the way that they just don't know that. I had a conversation with an accounting firm last week that has been trying to get a hold of the same 20 clients for the same 5 years to be like, do you want to know where your business stands as far as the numbers go? And they just ignore those phone calls. They just want to know that there's some money in the bank and they don't know CRA too much. And that's it. And they're just walking around and running their business oblivious. And then there's people that really take it serious and want to kind of get up to the next level. Like we joke around about athletics, but you take someone like Usain Bolt, he doesn't become the fastest man in the world without many, many layers of coaches, and very specific ones for different parts of him and his body and his mind is what it comes down to.
It raises a couple of questions for me. One of course, is around that playbook, the training, the hours and hours of learning how to be a coach. I'm wondering, can I get a copy of that playbook? Sure. But I'm also wondering whether that's something that's applicable or sorry, how do you apply that to particular businesses? So I look at us. As we started the business, we, like most entrepreneurs, have a particular set of skills that allow us to say, hey, I'm really good at this and I'm good at that and I'll figure that one out and I have no clue about this.
Are you quoting Taken?
I was thinking the same thing. Liam Neeson kicks in that door in a minute. I'm not coming back.
I totally ruined your train of thought.
Right. Yeah, this is what I live with. Yeah, it was. So, but the message. So when you talk about financials, while Rhys and I've done a wonderful job, sort of gravitating towards what we're good at,
right,
and complementing the same things that we're also good at. There are a ton of gaps, and they're blind spots for us. And as blind spots, sometimes we don't care. We don't see them. We don't know they're there. In regards to growth and sustainability, and what's the business look like, and cash flow, and those details, it's on the mind, but not necessarily top of mind. And I'd wonder from that playbook, if you're looking at businesses, it's not from growth to sale. It has to be everything from operational efficiency to where are we now to all sorts of other details. And I don't know if you can give us some insight. If you know a little bit about us, we've been in business since 2019, launched as a consultancy company first, grew into a full-blown podcast agency, have had really good success, but we still don't know what we don't know.
Right. Absolutely. So we start all engagements off with an assessment. And essentially it's a good solid couple of hours of you guys filling out questionnaires and us then talking about them. They're not like multiple choice.
Why are you looking at me?
Answers.
He lost you with the questionnaire, didn't he? He's like,
well, I prefer multiple choice.
Do you want to be successful? A, yes.
Yes,
B,
exactly.
No. But
he's going to put it into AI. I guarantee it.
But we have to figure out where you're at so that we can identify where the holes are. And then what we do is we assess whether that hole is important to look at right now. because we're not trying to fix it in the next 3 months, we're trying to fix it over a period of time, we can prioritize what those holes are. So you might have a cost issue where, you know what, you're paying a leasing company too much for all of these nice microphones and lights. So that strategy might just have to ride out its course, and there's nothing we can really do for it other than try to fill some top line sales to make sure that that becomes a smaller percentage. Whereas then identifying what the things are that you can fix that are going to directly impact your bottom line, and that can be the team wants to be rewarded. They want a new espresso machine so that they stop going down the stairs to get one or something like that. Those are the things that you really have to sit back and weigh. And that's where a coach and an outside perspective is really going to help you with that, because they're going to help you weigh those pros and cons. Ultimately, it becomes your decision on what you're going to do as a business owner, but you have to have someone kind of tell you, do you understand what this impact is on your business? And does it help escalate or slow down your exit strategy? And some people, their exit strategy can be, I'm going to get it to a certain percentage, and then I'm just going to go cruise and I'm going to go on vacations and I'm going to do all those things and continue to live off the residual of your business for the next 10, 15 years and just kind of experience that. Or it might be, you know what, we're going to sell it. And knowing what that succession planning is can really help you find that next line of staff, because you might have someone that's a huge top performer that wants top dollar, but you just can't afford it now. But you can dangle that carrot in front of them and say, hey, our exit strategy is in the next 12 years. So come along, we'll pay you what we can and as much as we can. But the plan would be for you to take this business and run with it when we're done, which kind of changes that. So you really have to, a room with, instead of sound control equipment, we would have some whiteboards and we would just start writing things out and talking, and nothing's off the table. And then we just do the business case around it. Does it directly impact? And it might be a great idea, but that great idea is 12 months from now, not right now.
I had a question about confidentiality, because obviously, like a lawyer, like and a doctor, they're like kind of bound by oath. And I suppose this could apply to accountants. I guess they don't take it. Accountants don't take an oath, do they?
Not the same, no.
Come closer to me.
Snuggle.
Thanks.
Sorry, you're actually, it looks like you're hitting Barrett in the face with your right hand. Yeah, so.
His arms are too short. He doesn't have the athleticism to hit me in the face.
This is a hard interview on Barrett. I apologize,
You should
Barrett.
see me try and catch.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
so like confidentiality. Obviously, if you're getting really in the weeds on a business, and you have to it's opening yourself up in terms of like you have to do your due diligence to know, can I trust this person? Because 100%. There's like say like we had someone come in and they were like really close friends with someone who competes with us. You know, what's to stop them at a barbecue or whatever? You know, talk a little bit about our business structure, and that's one thing that terrifies me too as well, is the kind of the leakage of like our secret sauce to other people, because not every, you know, is there like, you might have a guidelines you work to because of the franchise you're part of, but I guess there are people who don't as well if they're kind of set up shop.
Yeah, I know. For ourselves, we sign a confidentiality agreement with our clients where if we disclose anything, then we're able to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, but can't get blood from a stone, right? It's what it comes down to at some points in time. But it depends on how big your business is.
What do you mean by that?
But it'd be a pretty short-lived lifespan of a coach if they're going to go and they're going to broadcast those different things, right? We don't have the same level of a psychologist or a doctor or anything like that when it comes to things, but they have the same likelihood at a party to talk about fictitious things and theoretical things. But it'd be a short-lived life cycle for a coach if they're going to go out there and do those things. But just be comfortable with the paperwork and everything. And one of the things is you don't necessarily have to be comfortable with your coach. It's what your coach can provide you with. Sometimes your coach is getting paid to tell you the things you don't want to hear. And that is worth more than being paid to tell someone the things that they want to hear, and kind of build that. So it's to be an outside perspective. It's to be that board level advisor that's going to be like, does that actually impact what your ultimate strategy is for your business? And if you're doing that today, does it slow you down or speed you up?
I want to take you back to a previous point that you're talking about, a little in regards to HR strategies. And you talked earlier on understanding our financial position, P&L statements, all of these elements, which starts me to wonder about how some of those are universal. But when you get into, say, product market fit and whether we're priced right or what our services are, how do you become an expert better and broader than we are in the areas of focus that we have? We may not be a financial expert or we may not have a good understanding of HR, but in regards to our product, we should have a wonderful, the best understanding of a product market fit. How does a consultant sort of, as an external, come in and be able to consult two experts in their field?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to tell you how to run the specific podcast business. We're going to try to make it better for you through the different things of what it is. I'm not going to come in and say that I know how to run a podcast company. I know how to run a business. So I'm going to dive into the business side of things. When it comes to the top level things of, are you competitively priced? That's going to be one of the things that we're going to do together, is to go out and do that market analysis and do a little bit of digging and make some phone calls and send some emails. And maybe we set up a fake Gmail account and be like, hey, we're thinking about starting this. What's your pricing look like? All those different things, because you have to do your research. And through that research and guided research is where you're going to come up with those different answers along the way. So there's no real fit for it. There are definitely going to be coaches out there that specialize in growing a podcast business. That's not who we are at Action Coach. We are specialists when it comes to growing all different types of businesses. Because we're using the same strategy. The goal is to get you out of your business so that you can travel, you can do whatever it is that you want to do, work on that indoor soccer game, whatever the philosophy is along the way.
I want to get into team sport.
Rhys wants to start playing rugby, which is awesome. But what it comes down to is just it's finding the right fit, and that's where it's not one size fits all. So yes, we have a system. Yes, we coach everyone on the system, but where you enter the system changes for 100% of the clients that we bring on board. And it's all through a discovery process. And at any point in time, you really don't like it. I mean, the first question we ask when someone gets onboarded is, how do you want me to handle it the first time you try to fire me? Because I'm not doing my job if we're not creating friction along the way, is what it comes down to. So usually once we pass that first hurdle of that immediate disagreement, that's when all the real learning takes place, because then we've settled that difference and we just keep moving forward with everything.
How do you get past that point?
It's fun, isn't it?
Well,
And it changes by everybody.
I'm just fundamentally thinking, like, if Rhys and I go, no, we've got to fire you.
Yeah.
And you're saying that's
I'm
a
gonna
moment
say
that
why.
we want to embrace.
You're like,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Level one.
Now you've hit the pinnacle of where you're going to really start learning and making changes. Because what has happened all along is you've been resistant to the things that we're talking about, the things that we're changing, and the things that we're trying to implement. Then you're like, I don't need this anymore. I'm done. I've done all the growing I want to do. And then it's like, but have you? And then we go back to day one. Like, have you hit those goals? Have you hit those things? You know what? You might have read all of the same books or listened to all the same podcasts or done whatever in the past, but you never implied or done any of the things that you learned or wanted to apply to that situation.
So back to the earlier question about, have you ever come across people that are uncoachable? So the fact that we are skeptics in the beginning probably makes us the ideal client.
In a way, absolutely. At least for a referral basis. You're going to be like, I went into this knowing that there's zero chance I was going to be coachable, and here I am test driving cars in Vegas.
This is my second follow-up question to that, which is, how do we actually measure success then? Because I assume if we get to a point where we want to fire you, we probably haven't hit those benchmarks of success.
So we're going to start off by figuring out what that success looks like for you. We have clients that just want to make sure that they get to their kids' dance recital on a Saturday morning. And we have clients that want to exit their business for 7 figures. So what that means for you is going to change over time. And we align what that system is. We're the only coaching franchise that I know of that guarantees our work. So we tend to 3x your investment in the first 12 months and 7x your investment in the second 12 months. Because we've implemented and stopped those things. So sometimes it's top line sales, sometimes it's bottom line efficiencies, and everything in between. And what we target and work on changes depending on where your business is. So we figure out what that success is going to mean in our engagement together, and then we just start striving every day to get there.
So Barrett, you've got a sense of us a little bit. And I think our hardest part is going to be actually coming up with an agreement on where do we want to go, what success look like, and agree to that. So as a coach, how do you address or deal with potentially 2 conflicting founders that have 2 different directions? Do you just pick your favorite?
And totally different dress sense. I'm not talking about us.
Different accents. It comes to dividing and conquering, really. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but what we do is we have a tool that we use that's called an alignment. So in this scenario, not a chiropractic alignment, something different in between. So what we would do is, like, Jon, yourself and I would meet with your life partner, married, your wife would be involved, and we would figure out what the business means for you two. Rhys, similarly, your wife and I would do the same thing. Have a conversation, ask a bunch of questions, figure out what it means. And then we would get in the room together and realize that even though you might be pulling in different theoretical directions, you're both aiming for the same goal and figuring out what that exit strategy and what that is along the way. So continuously realigning what that is and figuring out what's important. It's easy to coexist. It's when the conversation stops or you're not having it that it becomes difficult and animosity builds. So it's easy when you get on top of it and you talk about it and you have it out in the open. And we have those conversations. And that's one that we would have annually. Does the business still represent what you want out of life? Is it still providing those things that you want in your life? Or are you just working your business day in, day out, beating your head against the wall? And if that's what you want to do, then that's fine. If the other partner doesn't want to do that, that's fine too. But if you can't both coexist, then that's a more difficult strategy to have conversations around. And then we get into legal conversations, and that's when we bring in other experts.
Right. And then one of us wants to fire you and the other one doesn't.
One of them's increasing the pay, the other's decreasing the pay.
Already, you describing those situations where we all get together with our wives and stuff, I'm like, I start to be like, I'm going to act like a dickhead and make bad jokes. And it's just my discomfort manifests as me being a dickhead, basically.
Yeah, and that's fine. I have big enough shoulders to handle that level of dickheadedness. But we're going to be able to get there, right? And it's uncomfortable the first time, but it has to happen. We have to have those difficult conversations because you have put your life into it. I mean, the last 6 years and all of your life before that was leading up to this moment where you're owning this business. So you've invested more than you realize. And your partner has invested more than you realize as well because they've given you the support and the steps along the way. But if your ultimate personal goals don't align with the direction the business is headed, that's where things get really tough and you have those difficulties. So getting ahead of it, doing those realignments, having those conversations helps pick the trajectory of where the business is going. And that's what some people don't figure out is, can this business decision I'm making for 2025 get me what I want personally in 2025, 2026, and so on?
Mm. My worry is that both our wives are smarter than us and they'll team up.
I wouldn't have it as a worry. It's probably a certainty.
I was going to say it's not a worry. It's the truth. It's one of the things that I'm hoping to do in these
creates balance in the force, right? So which one of you is the smarter one?
Yeah. Intelligence is like there's different types of intelligence. That's what I'll say. John's really good at math.
You don't even know what the math is.
Right.
PIN number written on the back of his bank card.
Oh, don't get started. There's a couple of things I'm trying to think. One is one of our hopes is when we wrap this up is that we've got a nugget that we can walk away with and say, let's work on this. This is a starting point to either be coached or to improve or self-improvement, whatever that is. And I'm trying to distill that down into 1 or 2 ideas. That's either a recommendation from you, a strategy, a thought, something that says, Jon and Rhys, step 1, do this. Right? I don't know if you've got a recommendation.
Like step 1 in your business or step 1 of working with a coach?
No,
is there something from like your model or what you do that we can take away and try, like a takeaway knowledge for the audience, but also for us in terms of like, we could try next week that we would like might validate the process?
Yeah, I mean,
like a freebie.
The freebie, 100%. And everything starts with a freebie. Coaching is one of the toughest things to describe. You have to experience it.
Okay.
I'd say 90% of us action coaches around the world start everybody off for free. We figure out what's going on with your business. We have some of those honest conversations and we invest our time and give you value. So at the end of that, if you decide this isn't for me, you're still picking up 2-3 things that you can apply to your business. But if you're going to apply them, it's a different thing. Because I'm going to call you in 3 months. I'm going to say, hey, remember that great idea I gave you? Did you implement it and what's it weighing for in your business now? But the diagnostic questionnaire is huge. We have a business questionnaire that we would send out, and it's what you would do before we would start an engagement and just sit down and fill it out together. Maybe start sober and then finish it after a couple of drinks, whatever the scenario is. And seeing if you align on those questions. And if you would answer the questions the same way, then that's great. And if you're not answering them the same way, then there's some alignment that's broken. And that's where one of the things that might have to be fixed is making sure that 2 owners are on the same page. and or at least in the same book in some scenarios, is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And preventing that infighting, which I don't foresee happening with you two, but it's what can happen, right?
It really is, right?
So, I mean, reach out. I'll send you guys the questionnaire. We start with that. And then the next step is to sit down, do some follow-up questions. I dig a little bit deeper into the answers that you've given and make sure that it's important. So maybe that's our good next step, is to do that together. And then we could meet on the next episode and go over how that was.
Well, I was going to propose that far into the future. One of our objectives is to have other conversations with other coaches.
Of course.
And the challenge for us is going to be, because we don't know the space, is what's going to differentiate you and the system and the program and actions approach. How do we make the right selection for the right coach for us? And I assume it's part you, person, character, trust, NDA that you talked about as well, Rhys.
Ironclad NDA.
But also this coaching blueprint document as well. So I think that's a great idea. We can start with that questionnaire. I guarantee it's going to be a...
John will do it.
That's right. It's going to be a... We've got alignment already. I like this. Right?
But I think, like, thank you for, like, explain this to us, and I hope we weren't too hostile or too cynical, because you've answered the questions really in a really like clear, direct,
well, thank you,
nice way. And I think that, like, for us, to understand like your specific role in the business and what your goal is with it, I feel like there's a lot of direction to action coaching in terms of there's a real purpose to why you kind of get involved, and you know where you're going with it. So it'd be interesting as we do chat to other coaches how they compare. Or are they more floaty around and go, look inside yourself, and whereas you're very much like, hey, look at this is where you are, this is where you want to go, this is the plan, will help you get there. So
exactly. It doesn't mean that there isn't some of the sensitive stuff in between and the different working on those soft skills and goals. Yeah. And there's going to be the odd book that might get recommended, or an audio book or a podcast to listen to that is really going to touch on those things. But really specifically knowing how to stay in our lanes is one of the things that I think makes Action Coach really strong, is we know where to draw that line and where we should say, you know what, you might want to call someone that's a little bit more professional in this market. It's one of the things we have on speed dial in our alignments is like a therapist or a psychologist or a mediator that can, when you get to those levels,
why do you keep making eye contact with me?
It sounds more.
Because I know who's going to pick up the chair and throw it.
Get more and more expensive.
But it's not, because it's a relationship that we've built where we kind of do that, right?
Yeah.
And
do you ever like recognize that there are people that you shouldn't coach? Have you ever walked away from a client?
the deselection process is very accurate.
Can you tell us a story about that?
No, we signed an ironclad NDA.
Yeah,
just some broad details on.
There comes a level where someone's just going to throw money at something, and I just feel bad taking someone's money if I know that I'm not going to be able to help them make that change. And they have to be willing to make that change as well. And that's why our programs are so vast and varied, is I can trial somebody on a $50 a week self-guided journey through coaching and learning and all of that educational stuff before I up it to like a couple of $1,000s a month that someone's going to pay for a whole lot more time. So it's going through that deselection process. And sometimes it's not that it's not right. It's just not right now. Because if you don't have the time or the money to invest, and 90% of the time it's the time. If you don't have the time to work on the things that we're going to talk about, to work on the things within yourself, to work on the things within your business, then it's not a good time to start that coaching journey right now. You might as well just go to Audible and download the top 3 business books and find a way to learn them and read them and apply it. But when you want that guided accountability, it's kind of like a gym membership. If you just go and purchase a gym membership or you purchase personal training, you're going to get 2 different results. And it's that accountability piece that really makes it the difference.
Yeah. I'd still try and make uncomfortable jokes with a personal trainer.
You've got a gym in your house.
Uncomfortable.
Exactly.
You might need a coach in your house.
Exactly.
Do you do live-in arrangements? Right? So
I don't really think I'd be the one that'd be doing the personal training.
So I think we've got a little bit of direction here.
Yeah, this is really good.
I'm much more positive than when we first had a conversation.
No, I think there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't know that I've never even, like questions I've always wanted to ask people who like coach, but without kind of having the space and time to do it and everything. So, which is cool. But
creating.
I think we should keep our journey going, and I think we'll definitely look at the questionnaire.
Yep.
And then I'll go, this is a lot, and then. But I think in the future, come back and hold us accountable,
100%.
and in maybe 10 episodes.
I know what I agree,
accountable.
and I think our problem is going to be just like your favorite color. Is it's going to change from season by
without
day
doubt.
and all that kind of stuff, which may be our challenge. So that's why I think we're going to struggle A, with our alignment, and B, with our changing views.
No,
but I think it's a good start for us.
So do you mean you're changing views and colors, like you might want to bounce around different coaches?
No, I think
or whether you want to coach or not.
whether
I'll buy them dinner first.
Yeah, whether we're ready for a coach. So you'd mentioned you can recognize when people aren't ready for coaches. Yep. Not enough time, not enough focus, not enough agreement. Mm-hmm. We may, as we're going through this process, start to self reject ourselves. Kick ourselves out of.
We've always been doing that,
right? So this is part of our journey. We do know that we're missing something. We can. It's 2025. We're not done. 2026 is going to look different. The journey from here to there, we don't know how we're going to get there. We've got some wonderful ideas. We're looking for external help. Internal help is phenomenal, but making sure that we've got sort of a clear and agreed on journey, that's probably a tougher conversation than he and I can have just over a beer.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to disagree. I think we're going to, and we're at 2 different stages in our lives. We have 2 different people, we have 2 different objectives, all that kind of stuff. So it's the wonderful, it's nice having a partner to be able to balance but we disagree. So that'll be the challenge. And having a third tie break vote might be helpful.
Ooh, exactly. Don't give anyone that kind of power.
And I got to say, although my preference in favorite color choice changes all the time, the one thing that doesn't change is the deliciousness of breakfast at Almanac.
Oh, wow.
Just wanted to plug that in there.
Thank you for a full circle on that.
No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. That was awesome. Luckily, our chickens tend to be.
No, I wanted to use the same joke. I can't believe you beat me to it. I was also thinking of breakfast. I'm very hungry right now. Well done, Rhys.
Brains are scrambled like our eggs.
Thank you, Barrett.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Jon and Rhys, I think you're on the right journey. You'll get there.
I'm glad somebody believes in us.
Rhys, do you want to wrap it up with what we've learned and what we're going to apply and what the next episode is going to be?
Well, no, I'm not joking. Yeah, I guess that was really interesting. And
alignment, swing and miss.
Barrett, it was good because I felt like I could be honest and ask honest questions with you, and you got honest answers back. So it'd be interesting to see. I like the idea of finding someone with a totally different approach to what you do and how you do it. I think it's kind of going to a buffet and trying new things and seeing what is there to offer and contrasting those flavors would be good.
Yeah, bring your stretchy pants.
So he might just be the bread. We may have just filled up on the.
We just filled up on bread.
We didn't even realize that roast beef is around the corner.
Exactly, or shrimp cocktail. Wait until we find the shrimp cocktail, and then we'll fill up on dessert as well.
Right.
Yeah,
makes those portions seem bigger when you start with the bread, right?
I'm really hungry now, guys.
All right. On that note, again, thanks again. All right.
Thanks.
Take care. The best place to find this podcast is wherever you find podcasts.
That's where I'd start.